Hey everyone, welcome to the Love Your Body podcast. On today's episode, we have a special guest, Blake with Volunteer Physical Therapy Performance. Is that correct? Did I
And
say?
performance, but yeah, you
Oh,
were
and
close.
performance.
Oh, that's
Okay.
cool.
I mean, I just started following you on Instagram right now
I'm
and
embarrassed. One
was
minute ago,
excited to see the cape and the magic that you provide to Instagram. You know what I mean? It's just crazy.
I just fight for what I want.
Uh-huh. Yes, I love that
Shameful
free
plug.
sponsored ad right there.
I'm just
Yep.
gonna leave that right there.
The new strawberry splash. Yep. Have we tried it yet? Are we
I have
shaking
not.
that?
I'm actually. Do you want me to do that right now?
Yeah, let's do a
Is this a real
live
time review?
taste. Yeah, we're live. We get a taste test.
I'm gonna treat this like I'm on. Do you watch Triple D with Guy Fieri?
No.
Diners, drive-ins, and dives.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
When he goes and interviews the people, and they
Mhm.
try to be like foodies, and they're like the crispy, crunchy, peanut
Oh,
buttery
okay.
goodness, and it's
Is
like
that?
stop.
Yeah.
Just say
Just
it
tell me.
tastes good or
Yeah.
bad.
Exactly. I don't need a whole
This
like.
mixes well.
Yeah.
No clumps.
Consistency is good.
The consistency is good.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
Cool. Refreshing.
strawberry splat. It was. That was delicious. Thank
Thank-
you for sharing.
Yes, of course. I'm so
Five
glad you got to
stars.
try it. Well, awesome. Well, we actually just came from basically, I mean, a physical therapy session. So for those of you that know, I'm obviously getting ready for a bodybuilding show. I'm 12 weeks out, and usually my issues are with my back, my leg, all the fun things on my left side. Like I was telling you, been dealing with some tennis elbow, I guess is what
Mhm.
you diagnosed.
Correct.
Yeah. I just was like, my elbow's bothering me. So I need some relief. So we did stem and what else do we do?
Dry needling.
Dry needling. Yep.
Mhm.
That was
And
good.
then we did some exercises to make it stronger and better.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. So tell me well, first off, the reason why you're on today, because we were like, oh, like, like physical therapist, like that's cool, whatever. But really, the real reason
Yes.
is that you came up to me at the expo
Mhm.
and because you had been on Joe's podcast,
Yes.
Let's Pursue. We love him. And
We love you, Joe.
and yep, and you saw like I guess that I was on there. Did you listen to the podcast and then you were just like, I think I know that, or like, how did that happen? Like, what?
So no, I didn't listen to it.
Okay.
Sorry, Joe. I still love you.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think I just saw him post about it on Instagram, and he
Okay.
posted a little clip or a few little clips like he
Yep.
does.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
was like, I like that. And
Yep.
then I saw your little booth next to my little booth, and I was like, I should
Mhm.
go shake her hand. So I did.
I had 2 spots for my booth, so it
You
was
had
not little, but,
well,
like,
mine was little.
and a stage, but but who's keeping
Are you
track?
here to flex or what are we
I
doing?
mean,
It's fine.
always.
No, it was good. So that was kind of I was even telling my wife before we went, like, the reason I go to those things is you might get new clients. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's great to spread your brand and all that,
Right.
but I get more benefits from meeting other business owners,
100%.
other people in my network,
Yes.
because that's who sends me. Like, getting one person is great, but getting the trust of one person who can trust you
Mhm.
to send lots of people to, like, obviously that's more valuable to me.
Oh,
So
yeah, definitely.
that's why I like going to those things. And
Right.
plus, most business owners like have a story,
Mhm.
and most of the stories are really cool.
Yeah.
So,
And we have a good, like, fitness group and fitness community, within Nashville, so that's been really exciting to watch that grow and just, see
it's gotten so
entrepreneurs
much
and everything.
bigger and closer. Like, it's crazy
Yeah.
how much there's so many people, but like there's not. It's very small but large. So like I
Yes.
know a lot of people that you know,
Mhm.
and they know a lot of people that I know, and it's like our
Yeah.
circles finally crossed.
So, yeah, and they crossed, so you came up to me or whatever, and then we started talking, and I had said, "Yeah, I'm from Murfreesboro," and you're like, "Yeah, I went to Blackman," or whatever, and I was right? And I was like, "Yeah, so did I."
No,
No,
I
you
did
went
not go to
oh, wait, no, you went
Blackman.
to Franklin Road. Okay,
Yes.
yes, okay, that's what it was, and then I was like, "Well, I went to Blackman," and, but I also went to that Christian school down the road from Franklin Road.
The other.
The other one, yes.
It's like Baltimore. We can't say the name.
I can't really, like, I just think it's interesting. What was your parents' decision on Franklin Road? Just
I have no idea.
yeah, that was
I have
just
no idea.
okay.
I started going there in kindergarten, and I
Okay.
graduated from there. So I was there my whole life. My
Dang.
sister went there as well. I don't
Which
know what their decision was.
okay,
Just where
because
we went.
because it's one of the only, Christian schools, in the borough. Besides Bill Rice, which where I went.
Yeah, and then there's PCA
Yeah.
and MTCS. So
Okay.
not many,
No,
but still.
and so, yeah, so it was just interesting because I remember that being a discussion with my parents, but then, they just want like Bill Rice is literally like 2 miles from my parents' house. So
Mhm.
that was like, wow, it was interesting. But we're like, okay, so we grew up in the same spot. And then I was like, okay, well, how did we not run into each other or know of each other at some point?
Not only did we grow up in the same city, we graduated high school the same year, so we're the same
Yep.
age, and we
Yep.
probably knew a lot of the same people like we
Right.
do now,
Yeah.
but in a different setting. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Life
don't
is
know.
weird that way.
So, well, I know that I mean, obviously went to, private Christian, school and everything like that. So like from there, so you're very in your faith. So maybe I was not as like, maybe I wasn't like hanging out and doing the same extracurricular activities. Like, I don't think you came to one of my bonfires. Like,
No,
yeah.
but I did go to some,
Mm-hmm.
but not yours.
Yeah.
Nope.
They were,
Wild.
yeah.
Hmm.
At one point it was like Project X shit. Like that's what the group was called. Like, come on out.
I mean, I wouldn't.
Were you goody two shoes? Were
No, I
you
was not. I
okay?
was a black sheep, maybe. Like
Okay.
I fit in with some. Like I didn't really fit into
Okay.
the mold.
Yeah.
Which now looking back is great because
Oh,
that's
yeah.
kind of what led me to start a business and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Was just like always being like not fitting into a box, I guess,
Yeah,
or at least not the box they wanted me to be in.
for sure.
But
Can you talk a little bit about what that was like? Like, what that kind of
at
box
the
was?
school,
Because I know my experience. Because I was, like, the only person in my grade, and I was I was, like, the only one, like, not going to their church all the time. Like, I was the only one that went and danced, like, that listened to regular music.
yeah.
Y
I mean, it was kind of like that.
Okay.
They've loosened up a lot over the years
Mhm.
to where it's like normal. But I was one of the only ones that like listen to normal music or
Yeah.
would go to the movies or
Right.
just stuff like that. And I say that it wasn't as bad as it making it sound. There's
Yeah, yeah,
plenty of
yeah.
normal-ish people, but it
But the
just
majority, the atmosphere, the
well,
energy.
they obviously encouraged us to not do those things. Like
Right.
you don't listen to that music, you
Yeah.
don't watch this movie, you don't go to dances, you don't go to prom, you don't
Yeah.
touch girls, you don't
Yeah.
whatever the rules were.
Yeah.
And not that I was like drinking and touching girls and stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that's not what I'm
Yes.
saying, but like I also grew up in a household that was my parents were they're great. They
Mhm.
were very encouraging. So like they were they allowed me to do things that other people weren't allowed to do,
Yes.
if
Yep.
that makes
Same.
sense.
No,
So
for
like
sure.
the school pushed us one way or like everyone was kind of expected or encouraged to go to like a
Yeah.
Christian college and
Yep.
like be in ministry and
Right.
it wasn't all for me like that. So I don't know, it was just
Yeah.
it was a box that I didn't quite fit in.
Yes. No, I totally get that because with us, it was like a Becca curriculum. So like
Mm,
they want you to go to the college that literally you're watching the kids, like that whole campus, like everything like was there. You know what I mean? So it's like they're like,
mhm.
we want you to go to Florida and like be a part of this college. And whatever.
Pensacola is the
Yes,
college.
Pensacola. Yep,
Mhm.
exactly. And and it would have been cool. I mean, I loved the setup. Like I loved the attention of essentially like where it was like just me with a teacher or like me being homeschooled essentially and to where and I've kinda highlighted this in the podcast before, but literally, that's how I learned how to schedule. I mean, like, I would fast forward through stuff. Like, I hated the singing. Like, I'm not gonna sit there and sing to the TV.
It's just
I'm
me.
yeah, it's
Like,
just
I can't
me.
sing, I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna sing and I can't sing for one, but then also, like, the Bible songs and whatever. Like, I'm very much in church where it's like, yeah, like, I'll be like this listening, but I don't really like to sing, you know?
Yeah, that's
So it would be like, I'd just fast forward through this, and then I would figure out what the teacher was gonna do or when they would just, like, ramble about stuff, so I'd, like,
mhm.
fast forward through that. Probably missed out on some stuff in math that I just cannot figure out now because I was too busy fast forwarding. But point is, it's like if you got your work done, you got what was expected of you done, you got to go to recess.
Yeah,
So some days I got recess for 30 minutes, sometimes I got for 3 hours. But like you
that
went
sounds
rode
perfect.
horses, you learned piano, we did sign language. I mean, there it
Hmm.
was
Y'all
what?
were out there pretending to be cowboys.
There was Cowboy Town. We
I
literally
know,
went
I went to camp
oh yeah,
there.
you went to
Oh, yeah.
camp. How did we not pass? I don't understand.
It's mind-boggling.
Because we would sit out there in on the mound or whatever, with a flag and then
Mhm,
like
I know
yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. Cowboy Town.
But the
That brought
boys were
back a
over
deep,
there.
dark memory.
We couldn't be hey, I vibed with Cowboy Town though, because like they
It's
had
where
some
the
chocolate
snacks
chip
were.
cookie dough,
Mhm,
ice
I
cream.
feel that.
I mean, it's like snacks, but they would play basketball and stuff. I mean, but yeah, we couldn't do
Carpet
stuff
ball.
together. Yeah, we couldn't. I mean, we couldn't
No,
swim or anything like that.
no,
Um,
which I thought was weird too. Because
yeah,
anyway.
yeah. I mean, yeah, hated wearing
I
t-shirts,
hated going
swimming.
there. I told my parents that. Actually, we drove past it the other day going to Franklin. I was
Yeah.
like, "I'm so mad at y'all for sending me to that
See,
camp."
I like the camp. I don't know, but I didn't know anything. I don't know. Were you okay? So, did you do sports outside
Mhm,
of school, like, or was it
mhm.
all with school?
No.
Okay, so
both.
you were acclimated like how I was to other people. Like I competitive dance, so I danced with people like from Oakland, from
Oh, yeah.
Siegel, so all different walks of
Yeah.
life. So I think that had something to do with us more so having a normal
I had a
experience.
bigger circle than most people in my school because most of the people at my school, not all, but
Uh,
most of them also go to the church.
yeah,
So the circle was the same people.
right.
Whereas, like, up until 7th grade, when I did go full time into school sports,
Yeah.
from kindergarten through 6th grade, I was
Mhm.
playing soccer, rec league in Smyrna. I played rec league basketball in
Yep.
Smyrna and Murfreesboro. Um, and I met people from Smyrna,
Yep.
Stewart's Creek now, Blackman, all the
Yeah.
schools, Sequel. So, and then I remained friends with those people sometimes.
Yeah.
So my circle was bigger
For sure.
with different kinds of people.
Yeah. And that's why I always felt kind of torn because, it was just like I just yeah, it was so much of, well, you're not a part of the church or you need to do more, you need to do this or whatever. But I was like, but I really love this part too, like the dancing and the sleepovers and seeing, my friends, just,
Normal
like
stuff, like kid
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I definitely, I appreciate my experience because I went to Black when I in 7th grade. And so that was like right at a pivotal time. But
Culture
like
shock.
yeah. So a lot of people don't get that, but like that Mean Girls movie with Lindsay Lohan,
Yeah.
that was me. Like hands down. It wasn't high school, but it was middle school.
Right.
When I walked in, I mean, there were more people sitting at the lunch table to be divided into like 7A and 7B than there were in my entire school.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, and even with the outfit, I'm like, "Oh, man, like, I'm wearing, like, jeans still." I think I wore a skirt still, but anyway, but
Yeah,
you know
you
what I
did.
mean, though? Like, because like, all my outfits had to be below the knee
Mhm.
skirts and dresses, even in the heat of summer. Love that for
Yeah.
me.
Love that for you
The
too.
culottes.
Oh, yeah, the culottes.
Oh, the
Eh.
culottes. For those who don't know, base
It's like a
fabric.
skort, but somehow worse.
Yes, yeah, not even a cute skirt. It ain't like a tennis. It's
It's
like
like a
below your knees.
it's like a
Really,
dress with shorts, yeah?
literally, it's like I just would go to Target and buy boy like long shorts, and that's what I would
It's
wear.
basically like a trash bag,
Basically, that's how
but
I
with
had to do
shorts under
athletics,
it.
and people wonder why I don't like playing sports outside. Like
Yeah,
that was
understood.
that was a
No
whole
more culottes.
yeah, gosh, man, that was the best. But anyway, so then going from that, and having that culture shock or whatever. So you didn't really have that. You just were kind of you just
Yeah, no, I didn't.
what about with college? Where did you go? Because you went a few different places.
I did.
Okay.
So, I don't know, I think my exposure to people in high school, like, I never really felt like I didn't belong
Mhm.
places with other types of people that were different from me, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
because I didn't grow up in that smaller circle like some of the people did, and then
Right.
they went to Christian college and they kept the trend. So I did go to a Christian college for 1 year.
What was
It
it?
was called West Coast Baptist
Okay.
in California.
Oh,
So, yeah, so I was there a year. I had a lot of fun. It was kinda nice because it was like I had the structure of a Christian school
yes.
with rules, but, like, I was not with my parents. There was some
Yeah.
freedom within that,
Freedom.
I guess. But I was a wild child at 18, so
Yeah.
honestly, looking back, it was probably a good move,
Yeah.
and my parents said, "Hey, if you go there for a year, we'll pay for the rest of your undergrad." Well, I'm like, "That's easy deal."
This
Like,
is so
"Yes."
funny. Like, this is wild because
Yeah.
I got into a dance college that was supposed to be in California
Mhm.
or that was in California. And I basically told them because they were like, oh, yeah, like, you're not. Like, you're 17. Like, no. And so, like, you can pick MTSU or UT. I
Oh,
was like, well, cool. So I guess like you guys are gonna help pay for that. That you know what I mean? Because
yeah.
like I don't, it was my dream was to go out to California. Like I
Yeah,
thought
and
that's where I was gonna
dance.
be and dance, be a backstage. Yeah, oh yeah, but be a backup dancer for J Lo. Like
Duh,
that was the whole vibe. That was the goal. The fact that I got in there. So, but looking back, it's like I could not have survived in California at 17, and
would've
then
been
there
hard.
all the eating disorder. Like there just would have been too much, and no support. You know?
Well, and you're 17 or 18 as I was, and you think you know literally everything, and your parents know absolutely nothing, and
Yep.
that is
Yeah.
well, they were 18 once too, and I always had to
Yeah.
like, even older now, I'm like, my dad was 18 at one point, and he
Right.
was probably just like me,
Yeah.
hard-headed and
Are you an only child?
no,
Okay.
no, I have an older sister. She's
Okay.
2 years older than me.
Did she go to the school,
She did.
Franklin?
Mhm.
Okay, so you're kinda following in suit with
Mhm,
what she
and then
did?
she went to the Christian college for all 3 years,
Okay,
and so or she went for 3 years, she graduated early.
yeah,
So I went out my freshman year there was her senior year,
okay,
and so she graduated. Like I said, it wasn't a bad experience, but
yeah.
it was
You
a
didn't
little
wanna
more freedom than I
stay.
had, but I didn't wanna stay. I knew that,
Yeah,
like, ministry was not my calling.
okay.
Like, I didn't wanna be a preacher, I did not wanna be a missionary, I didn't wanna be a singer, like, none of that
Yeah,
appealed to me. That's just not what I wanted.
right.
So I
So
did
what
that for a year.
okay, so what did appeal? Like, after you went to
Well,
somewhere else and you kinda figured that out, or
so my senior year of high school,
Mhm.
I'm trying to think back of the timeline. Basically, what happened was I knew that I hated math,
Yeah,
and I
same.
knew that I didn't want to go into ministry, and I knew that I liked science and
Yep.
exercise and sports and, you
Process of
know,
elimination for
yeah,
everyone
yeah, yeah. So
listening.
it's like, okay, cool. So we
Yep.
got this going. So at the time, my cousin was in athletic training school.
Okay.
So I asked him, like, hey, what do you think? Or no, he was an athletic trainer. He'd already done all the stuff.
Okay.
I was like looking for careers and I'm like, hey, that sounds cool. He works with athletes. He gets to do
Yeah.
like rehab stuff. He gets to work with the body, sports, exercise, stuff I'm interested in.
Yep.
So I asked him if he liked that. And he's like, well, yes, but we have to work so much. They have to travel all the
Yeah.
time. He was working like 50 to 70 hours a week,
Yeah.
depending on travel schedule and practices and stuff. And he was not getting paid that much.
Right.
So he's like, you should look into physical therapy. It's kind of like the same thing, but
Mhm.
the hours are more predictable, the pay is better, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So I look into it. First thing that comes up is like, working with old people who are
Right. Yeah.
broken. And it's like, that doesn't really appeal to me. But then you start looking a little more and it's like, okay, this is, you find out they work with professional sports teams. They
Yes.
work in these, they work with athletes. I'm like, okay, this is sounding a little better. And
Mhm.
that was kind of what started it.
Yeah.
And so I just kept walking through the doors related to that. So I went to Motlow for 2 years in
Okay.
Smyrna in the pre-physical therapy track. Then I
Okay.
went to Middle for 2 years,
Okay.
got exercise science degree, and
Yeah.
then I got accepted into PT school at Tennessee State University,
Okay.
and that was kind of the path, and the doors kept opening, so I just kept
Kept
walking through
following
them.
it.
Yeah.
Yep. I love that.
So that's
That's
it's not super exciting.
no,
Everyone
I mean,
else's PT story is like, "I had a shoulder injury in baseball, and PT changed my life," and everyone asks me that, and I'm
no.
like, "That's not me. It
Yeah.
just kinda happened."
Right, but I think that that was a God thing
Oh,
too,
100%.
because that was something that I wanted to touch on with you is that, like, you were very open in your faith, and I which I appreciate, especially, like, social media and things like
Yeah.
that, and, you know, I I don't know, it's always like like, I do harp on the Bill Rice Ranch and, stuff like that, whatever, but like I said, I appreciated what it gave me and the good things in it, and the nonsense and the silly stuff, I don't hold a grudge towards them or negativity or whatever, like, I just was very plain about it.
Yeah,
Like, I was like, "Dancing brings me joy, I'm gonna keep dancing. You say I'm gonna go to hell, but, like,
that's
that's one
fine.
person's opinion. I don't think that's the end all be
Well,
all."
and where is it in the Bible that so,
Right, yeah,
yeah, I
so,
get it.
it was things like that where it was like I learned to be very level at a young age, and to where I was like, "Yeah, I think cutting my hair will be just fine. Like,
Yeah,
I think we're good with some highlights." Like, and again, so but I know that when I left that, it was so hard though, and it felt like there was a piece of me because it honestly is like when you have a personal trainer and you just go show up and, like, they tell you what to do, okay? So
mhm,
imagine doing that every day for
yeah,
your whole life, and
13
then
years.
right? Exactly, and then you're just, like, left on your own to be like, "Okay, now figure it out," but also you're worried about at that time, 12 or whatever, I'm worried about, like, fitting in, and then how do I social interact? And I was very quiet, like, I'm just, like, listening, picking up on everything everyone's talking about.
Everyone in the audience just got shocked.
Right, yeah, they're like, is
No,
that
you
is that
weren't.
real?" No, I seriously I mean, I could not I don't know, I was just so fearful, I guess, and I didn't understand a lot of things, like, literally, people will be sitting there talking about, like, weeds, and I'm like, "Weeds? Like, why? Like, we're outside, like, whatever,"
Do you
they're
guys have
talking about
allergies
smoking
too?
weed
It's like, "Oh,
after school,
weed,
and I'm
okay."
like, "Oh, got it," but that's how, like, slow it was, you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, "Oh my gosh," and that went into even high school. People were talking about stuff. I learned things way later than I probably should have.
And we probably learned things way earlier at the Christian school than we should have too, but
Yeah,
who's keeping count?
right, so
Boys will be boys or something like that.
yeah, so, I don't know, it was just, it was challenging, so
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way, so, I mean, now you can look back and be like, "Okay, I'm 30, so I'm looking back at
ugh.
Franklin Road." I know, right? And it's like, at the time, it seemed like the worst thing ever. Like, I
Right,
wanted nothing more than to go to public school with all my other friends because it's
yeah,
like, "Oh, I can have so much more freedom and stuff."
right.
But, like, really, do you get that much more? Because my parents would have still been my parents, and at the
Oh,
end of
yeah,
the day, like, that's who's really setting the rules for me.
yes, or who should be.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
for me, it's like, okay, I look back, there was a lot of structure. It was a good thing because I got a good education.
yes,
Like, I'm intelligent
yeah,
because of them. I mean,
yes,
partially, maybe it's like some of it's just natural, but most of it
Yeah.
is like I got a really good education
No, for sure.
and I was ready for college. I actually was
Yeah.
having this conversation earlier with someone, but like college was easier than high school for me because
Mhm.
like it felt so dumbed down. I even told him I was
Right.
like, it felt like a waste of time because it
Yeah.
was so dumbed down and we had to take the same like I just took history my senior year and then my freshman year of college, I'm taking history again.
Mhm.
History didn't change.
Yeah.
And somehow this history course is easier than the one I was taking in high school.
Right.
So it set me up for success, educational, like
Yeah.
wise. It allowed me to become comfortable in my own faith, which, as an adult, like you
Mhm.
have to start developing your own beliefs.
Yeah.
And I started doing that earlier, even from them, because they would tell us stuff or
Yeah.
say stuff or preach on stuff in chapel or whatever. And it's like, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know that I quite follow that logic or line of thinking, but that was good because that allowed
Yes.
me to grow as a young person into my faith,
Right.
what it is now, and what I think at the end of
Well,
the
just to be
day, it's like your
exposed to
own
it.
faith,
Yeah.
but, like, they set me up with a good foundation of how to do that.
Yes.
So, I'm thankful for it at the end of the day, even though like I said, at the time, it seemed like the
Yeah.
worst thing ever, like, it's like, I'm such a square, I go to a Christian school, but no, it's like, no, that was good for me,
Yes.
or great for me
For
even.
sure, and it's a unique experience of, like, especially in this day and age,
Yeah.
to be able to have that. So, with that, do you feel like how do you feel with, like, today's climate, like, having a business, okay, so being an entrepreneur, also being very in your faith, like, I think you just got married.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's, like, a lot of, like, stuff to jumble, like, you
Yes.
know what I mean? Like,
Huge.
lots of things going on. I mean, do you feel like you're still kinda being just guided on that path? Like, it's just, like, one thing has been the other, like, hasn't really forced anything? Do you feel like you've been, like, grinding to get this business? Like, how like
I mean, you can't own a business and not work hard,
True.
but the path that I've been given
Mhm.
has been somewhat easy, I guess. Like, it's
Mhm.
not easy, but it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Like, I have to work hard, and I don't sit around and wait for things,
Right.
but I also don't go on my own and try to
Mhm.
do it on my own,
Right.
whether that's talking about God or just people,
Yeah.
like, people surrounding me. So, I've surrounded myself with good people as well
Yeah.
who help me, or maybe they own a business, or maybe they're
Mhm.
like a spiritual advisor, or, you just have these people around you that you can go to with things,
Yeah.
like mentors, I guess.
For sure.
So the business path is not easy, and people
Mm-mm.
who own businesses know that.
For sure.
But like I had this conversation with a client of mine earlier. I was telling her the story of how I started my business, which is
Yeah.
funny. She asked me though, so I told her,
Yeah.
and I said something, and she said, "Oh, that sounds like a God thing." And I was like, "This whole thing is that."
Exactly.
Like I look back at the way things, even like, okay, when I started it in 2020,
Mhm.
in my brain, I'm like, I want my own private treatment room in a
Yes.
big performance training facility with
Yep.
all this stuff. Like that was my dream. I wanted to have that, but I didn't start out there. But
Right.
now you saw the spot
Yeah.
just recently.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So my
Well,
vision came to life. But
and those guys would not have gone to that space because I remember seeing them back at the Mac
yeah,
when they
because the
trained.
Mac kicked them
Was
out.
closed. I mean, well, yeah,
Yeah.
and then they were
Well,
closing
Avalon
anyway.
kicked them out.
Right. But that was a negative for them, but then, like, ended up being a positive for you. So it's like
And
he
them.
kinda meant yeah, well, for sure. But, like, at the time, it may have seemed, whatever.
Yeah.
But so it's just, again, that manifestation. But what I find interesting is a lot of people will always reach out to me and be like, "Man, like, you're just crushing it." They'll be like it's just a lot of really positive things. We're like, all this stuff, and I try to just explain, like, that and I probably I'm being more open about it now, just because for so long I don't know, it felt so like, I felt, like, angry, like, I couldn't talk about stuff because being this equals this now. There's, like, no understanding.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
You're a
100%.
white male.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm a
I'm a white female, like, from the South, like, it's just, like,
yeah.
that equals this or whatever,
Yes.
right? So, I had a
A
very hard
Christian
time.
white male from the
Yes.
South whose
Oh, yeah.
parents are still together and they graduated college, like, by every standard, I am like a brat or whatever the thing is, like,
Yes.
I'm privileged
Right.
basically, and it's like, I am. I will
Mhm.
say that, like,
Yeah.
I'm very blessed and I've been very fortunate,
Yes.
but that doesn't like, I've also worked hard for what I have. It's not like I just sit around and my parents feed me money. It's like
100%. Yes.
they
And that's where, like, too, where I'm like, with people, when I explain the whole becoming like a, influencer at Connect, right? Like, I was at a point where, like, yes, I had money saved where I could have bought a house, but because I was, like, living with my parents and stuff like that, people kept pressuring me because saying, "Hey, you need to buy a house, you need to buy a house," whatever. I was like, No, like, God is like, I feel like He has given me such a intuition to know about people, to, like, really see them for who they are, to know myself, to because everything that where I got off path was when I lost myself, when
Mhm.
I second guessed that intuition that I knew, like, from the beginning. I can literally map it out and be like, "Oh, remember that moment you had that thought? That was Him saying, like,
Yeah.
that's the issue, right?"
People call it intuition, but to me,
But
it's the Holy Spirit or it's God
yes.
communicating with me in some way.
Right, and so, for me, it was like, man, I've been blessed with that, but He has provided these things. Like, I had I mean, I have a website, and this woman who was in Chicago, like, you could randomly came upon my website. Now you can say, "Oh, that was good marketing," or your Facebook ads or whatever, but, like, none of that stuff ever picked up, and no, it was just that, again, she saw my stuff and whatever, but, like, that was all intertwined, like, that was all part of a plan.
Yes.
Like, I put it out there and, like, I set the money for the website, and yeah, and whatever, and I worked hard and I did things and did events and went to expos and helped plan expos and all these things, but it was already destined that, like, I was so set in that, and it was such a calming thing where it was like, "Yeah, like, you're gonna live with your parents forever," like, the kind of that standard, that
Yeah.
push that you get back, that
Maybe.
like, but I was like, "It's straight," you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's good because I got to like, during pandemic, I got to sit, like, with them and actually, like, spend time with them
Mhm. And
because
it's different as an adult, spending
yes.
time with your adult
And I
parents.
needed that
Like, it's
because
a
I
different
didn't get that
relationship.
when we were growing up. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like, because dad was always working, mom was always working. They were gone. I had a nanny, like, taking me places, a cousin, that would take me wherever. And, or I would hop into, one group of people and they'd take me to dance and the others would take me to gymnastics. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't really have that time. So I got to sit there with them and meanwhile, I was going through one of the hardest moments in my life, and the hardest time and struggling with a past relationship and stuff. They were that rock. And that was a beautiful moment, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? That allowed a lot of things to happen, but all that to say, it's like when the spirit or whatever you believe is, like, coming at you, like, you have to listen to that,
Have to.
and so I've been very blessed, and I feel good about that even just moving forward, and so that's why when people are like, "Oh, I don't know if you get this now," or we're like, "Well, what's next? What's next?" And I'm like, man, we just moving forward
Yeah.
because things are gonna open up.
They
Like,
do.
things are going to happen with when you are open to it, first off, but when you have I believe, just and it's not even like an overly positive mindset. It's just a not looking at the world as, like, such doom and such because I'm very mindful. I'll tell people all the time, like, "Yeah, it's a simple world."
It is.
Like,
It was never designed
it
to be
was never
perfect. Yeah.
exactly. So, like, it is a bad like, I mean, there is bad stuff that happen all the time and sad stuff. But, again, if we just dwell on all of that all the time, like, then what is the point? How are you truly serving your potential and your
You're
purpose?
not because like, it's a negative mindset and
Yeah.
your brain, like, there's science that proves this too, but your
Mhm.
brain puts out what you put into it. So if you're
Yeah.
constantly putting in like and it doesn't help that we have constant access to the bad news. It's on our
Right.
phones, it's on
Yeah.
Instagram, it's on the news. Like, yeah, it's and people are like, "Oh, the world's going crazy." And it's like, "Yeah, maybe." Well, A, it's supposed to do that. Like,
Right.
it's been that's part of the process, but
Yeah.
also we just have more access to it as well.
Yes.
Like, if in the '50s or before TVs and phones and stuff, if something
Mhm.
crazy happened in Idaho, you're
Yep.
probably not gonna hear about it.
Exactly.
But now
Oh,
you
yeah.
get worldwide news and it's like the world's going crazy. It's like it's always been crazy. It has
Yes.
always been like this.
Yep.
Read the Bible. It was crazy back then too.
Right, yeah, no, I love that. So, what is something that you I guess, because I'm not on the part of the journey that you're at in terms of with marriage and stuff like that, like, how did that kinda come about for you? Like, did you after you got back from college, were you like, "Okay, I know I wanna start this business, I'm following this path, and now but I do have to find a church or a group," or, like, did you actively search for that, or did you just go back to Franklin Road? Like, how did that work? Like,
I'm
does that make
sorry.
sense?
Ask the question.
Did I lose
So
you? Yeah, like
yes,
okay, so, like, with
marriage something.
yes. So, like, when you came back from college,
Mhm.
okay, so you're on this path of, like, I'm gonna
Yes,
start PT,
I'm
okay?
following.
So, did you like, was it that, "Okay, I have to be intentional, I have to seek out a group of people that are Christ-like and that are followers, like, that I can hang out with," like, the people say youth group when you're young and whatever,
Right.
or like that, and is that where you, like, met your current wife
So I met
or
my wife in PT school.
okay,
And that is also a whole long story. But the short story is in PT school, I had to take what I call a victory lap, which
okay,
means
yeah,
I was supposed to graduate in 2019, but I completed my first year
mhm,
we had to have a 3.0 or above grade point average.
Yeah.
I did not. So I
Okay.
went on probation for 1 semester,
Wild child.
and then which is fine
Yes.
because it's like, okay, just get your grades up, get
Yep.
it above a B average, and you'll be good.
Right.
Okay. So I worked I did not PT school was a big culture shock because I didn't have to study a lot in undergrad, and then all of a sudden I'm like drinking out of a fire hydrant with
Yeah.
information,
Oh, yeah.
and I did not know how to study. I had no study
Yeah.
habits, so that was hard, and it was a lot of new information.
Yeah.
So first semester was very busy. Second semester, same thing. I also started having some health issues. I was having ulcers. I had some ulcers. I was dealing with anxiety that I'd never dealt
Right.
with before because this was all it was so much
Oh, yeah.
stuff. And so I couldn't like I felt like I couldn't even get out of bed some days. So
Yeah.
there's probably some depression in there too. But it was like I wasn't ready. I was just a student for so long. It was
Yeah.
like I started in kindergarten. As soon as I graduated high school, I went to college.
Right.
As soon as I graduated from middle, I graduated in May. I started PT school in June. Like there was no break. It was just bang, bang, bang.
Right.
I was burnt out.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that felt like, but I'm like, this is a struggle.
Yeah.
And also I wasn't super strong in my faith at that time.
Mhm.
We would go out all the time in downtown Nashville, which is obviously not good for your health or your
Yep.
bank account. I
Right.
won't go too far into that, but you guys know.
Yeah.
We did that a lot. So, and then I was in a not great relationship.
Okay.
I'll just say that too.
Okay.
So not good for me.
Yeah.
But I did it anyway because I wasn't like I was looking for something.
Yeah.
Even though I knew it's so funny because it's like I grew up in this. I knew what that something was.
Right.
I
But
refused.
yes,
I
you exhaust
refused to
all other
accept
options.
that.
Yeah.
I was like, no, that's not it. No,
Yep.
that's not it. Looking back now, it's like that was definitely it.
That was
100% because
Oh,
I was
yeah.
not walking down the path I was supposed to.
For
However,
sure.
kept going, whatever. So that was the first year. And then also I had some professors. No, this is all God's timing, but like I had that last semester where I was supposed to get my grade point average
Yeah.
up. I had good grades basically I missed it by 1 point on one test. Like you can't draw it up any better than that. It's like
Yeah.
1 point on one test was the difference between me staying in school and me having to take a year off.
That's wild.
And I was so mad.
Oh, yeah.
Like not mad. That's a bad. I was furious. Like
Yes.
I could have killed someone.
Yeah.
Like I was so mad.
Ugh.
Luckily, I didn't find out about this until the summer when I was on my clinical rotation. So I was down in Biloxi, Mississippi,
Okay.
doing my first clinical rotation. About halfway through my clinical or my PT advisor, teacher, professor, called me and was like, "Hey, man, you missed it by like this much. Like you're gonna have to apply for
Yeah.
reinstatement to the program. Blah blah blah." Oh my gosh! So I'm mad, but luckily I'm in Mississippi, so
Yeah.
whatever. And he's like, you can finish your clinical. If you get reaccepted into the program,
Yeah.
it'll count. So you'll just start you have to redo 2 classes to get the grades up.
Not terrible.
All right, cool. So I finished my clinical rotation. Come back, retake classes that fall. I only took 2 classes.
Yeah.
So I wasn't around them super a lot. And I knew that one class I didn't have to be in class for because I had all
Okay.
the notes and stuff. So I just
Yeah.
never went. So I was there like once a week.
Right.
So no one in that class really even knew me. They were just like, he's like quiet. Of course, I was mad at the world at the time.
Yeah,
so
you're just already
one
you're
girl
just
told me, she goes, "When I
focused.
first met you at that class, I thought you were a total dick." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Thank you." And
Yeah.
she's like, "It's just because you just sat back there." And I was like, I was very angry at
Oh,
that
yeah.
time in my
Like, I don't
life.
even wanna be there.
I didn't
Yeah.
want to be there. So
Yeah.
anyway, got through that, got better grades,
Yep.
got reinstated. All the stuff happened.
Okay.
And I started back full time with that class, which would be now the class of 2020. We started back over in the summer. So I'd finished my first year. I started their second year with them.
Okay.
So the girl I was dating at the time was in the first class of 2019.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of how to put this delicately.
Oh,
The
gosh.
short story is this is Jerry Springer right here.
Oh,
right?
no.
But
Let's hear it.
yeah,
Come on.
this is T. So I moved in with a guy who was also in my PT class. You
Okay.
can already see where this is going, I'm sure. He was engaged to be married at the time, and I
Okay.
was dating this other girl who was in the class.
Yeah.
So we were all friends. It's cool. Anyway, short story is they ended up, they're now married
Yeah.
together. So there was, they denied it forever, and I was like,
Right.
we're not stupid. But
Yeah.
anyway, me and the fiance at the time put it all together, and then we straight up called him out on it, and they would
Oh,
never admit to
no.
it. But that was what was happening.
Yeah.
So
They didn't
anyway,
admit to it, but then they were like, "And we
but
all
then they
just
got
need to,
married.
Yeah, exactly. Like
It's like, okay, so nothing was going on. You guys were just friends. Okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So that happened.
Right.
So that was at the beginning of my new semester with these people. So I had just gotten over being mad at the world because I
Right.
was like, all right, I'm on a new fresh path. I'm starting over kind
Mhm.
of. And then that happened 1 month before I started back to school. And I was like, you've got to be joking me.
Did you ever take that as a sign to, like,
Oh, I
were you like
knew. I'm
yeah,
telling you, I knew what was wrong, but I refused to accept it.
okay.
I was like, I'm going to do this on my own. I don't need anybody.
Yes.
So then I was mad at the world again for
Yeah,
that
yeah,
whole summer semester because of that.
right.
And they were still on campus. I didn't see them a lot, but when I did, it just
Oh, yeah, it infuriates
immediately made me
you.
angry.
Yeah, for sure.
Immediately. Like I'm surprised I didn't
Yeah.
hurt someone. I'm not usually physically violent, but like
Oh,
that
yeah.
point in my life,
But heartbreak and trauma can do that
I
to
was
you.
unhinged
Yeah,
that summer. Like I did not like the person that I was.
yeah.
And I think about that all the time. I'm like thinking back to how I was and when I even feel myself feeling those ways,
Yep.
I'm like, I don't want to go back there because I didn't like that
Right.
person. It
Yeah.
didn't feel like me, but it wasn't me. But it
Mhm.
was like I was so far away that it was not a good spot. I
Yeah.
was unhinged. I was really like mentally unstable a little bit. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
angry at everybody,
Yeah.
like not good.
But which I think is something too that people that are listening, like, need to understand that a lot of men go through that
Yes.
and all those emotions and feel that, but don't really get to talk a lot about it. And it's not that they don't feel it, they just don't really talk about it.
Well, it's
So did
not
you
cool or
have
tough.
right, so did you have anyone to like, did you lean into your parents at all
Yes,
or
I
okay,
did. And
okay.
that is a lot of why. I mean, a lot of people don't have that. And I had a very
Mhm.
open and forthcoming relationship with my parents growing up.
Yeah.
I was very honest with them most of the time. Obviously,
Yes,
there's some,
yes.
mischievousness and all that,
Uh-huh.
but, like, for the most part, I was pretty transparent with them because
Yeah.
they set up an environment where I could be.
Right.
So I enjoyed that. So when I was older at that spot and then my brother-in-law is also a pastor
Okay.
or an associate pastor at Franklin Road, so
Okay.
he was kinda like someone I kind of leaned on or, like, could
Yeah.
use for help, but my parents were mainly who it was because they like my dad's dad, my grandpa,
Mhm.
he dealt with mental health issues. He actually committed suicide. So
Mm.
it's not like it was foreign to them
Right.
to have those issues.
Yeah.
So, and having that relationship with them is priceless. Like I
For
felt
sure.
comfortable talking to them about this stuff. Like I'm really struggling and they're like,
Right.
just what to do.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and they're like, "We can't lead you" like, what is it? Like,
No,
lead
you
you
can lead a horse to water, but you
yes,
can't make him drink. So they'd given
exactly.
me all the tools to be successful, and I knew what I had to do, and I just really wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I feel like all of those things, the missing out on class, the having to repeat a year,
Oh,
then the
yeah.
breakup and all of that was
Yep.
like that was God breaking me down to nothing.
Yes.
Like rock bottom. I
I
was
feel that.
depressed. I was anxious. I
And
was
this is what year
angry.
was this for you?
2017 into
Okay.
18 kinda.
Okay.
It was officially 2018 was when I was mad 2017,
Yeah.
and then I was
That's
mad
right.
again in 2018,
Okay.
so
All mine started 2020.
oh,
So that was
good.
yeah.
So 2018, that all happened. Okay, God broke me down to nothing. I finally did what I was supposed to do. Like,
Yeah.
I knew.
So what was that?
It was just going back to my faith,
Okay.
and, like, that was when I started going on hikes and I would, like, pray in the woods, and I
Mhm.
know a lot of people connect in the woods in their
Yeah.
different like Joe,
Yeah.
he does the wolf
Oh,
thing
he does a lot. They tell me to go
in
to
the
the woods all the
woods.
time, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Y'all, I'm not gonna make it out.
Yeah,
That is
and
not
they
for me."
they it's a little different than what I was doing, but, like,
Yeah.
you go outside in nature, it's quiet, you
Yeah.
reconnect, so
Yeah, there's
I spend a lot
bugs
of
and
time
stuff,
doing that.
y'all.
Yeah, and animals.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna get eaten by a bear. Like,
Yeah,
I just wanna do it like, I like to pray and stuff in my own home, like, or at the church or what you know what I mean?
I don't
But
know.
I get it.
Yeah, it was
Being in
something
nature
about the
is different.
quietness or, like, I'd go to, like, sit at like, I love
Yeah,
water.
yeah,
I go sit on the water
and
or,
that
like,
is
at a pond,
beautiful.
so
Yes.
there's something about the quietness and spending time with myself, and a lot of people are scared to spend time with their thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
It was a very scary place
Well
up there, but it's like I have to feel these emotions.
well, even with Jake passing, because you saw me there, and thank you for coming up, which you did not.
I
Um,
you were so far away. I'm
bruh,
sorry.
you coulda just walked over.
You were so far away, and I was trying to be help I'm sorry.
I
That
know,
was
I
my
know.
bad.
No, you're okay, you're okay. No, I definitely went in with the intention that I wasn't gonna know anybody, and then people came up, and so, I did talk to some
Yeah.
people, and it was very special moments, but that was that was hard because I basically had to tell everyone around me, "Hey, I gotta sit with this for just a moment." Like, 12, 24 hours. Like, I
Mhm.
need, like, no, clients messaging. Like, I mean, just again, because it's hard
Radio
for me,
silence.
yeah, for me to have that with, because again, that means literally turning my phone off.
Same. I
And
get it.
but then, so that's like it's just so challenging. And so it was one of those where I'm like, and still I haven't got to take a full beat, but I feel rested in it. I feel good closure with it. Um, I'm still kind of angry about it,
Yeah.
because again, Jake was like a man. I mean, he was a man of God.
Yeah.
He always looked out for everyone. He was such a special
He was a
person.
protector.
And yes, and I now more so see that in his passing
Mhm.
than I did when he was alive.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because it was all right there.
Yeah.
It was all right there.
It was.
And I just kind of, I don't know, but I don't know. It was so interesting to hear everything that was said about him and stuff like that. And so anyway, so it's just like, again, when I'm finding more men being open about their faith and talking about that, like, it is like, something that I feel like is super special. And maybe you're just like, oh, I'm just doing what, I'm supposed to be doing or whatever. But it is something like you guys are lights. And whether it's helping people through, how he was officer, you're doing it with your PT and your business and stuff like that. Like, or maybe just in general with your, I don't know if you haven't got to this point. Yeah, because I keep interrupting you. But like, is there a group that you joined, or is there like you know what I mean, of young people that
No.
you connect with, or is it more so
I
now you and your
so
wife?
yes.
Okay.
So I when all of that happened,
Mhm.
leaned on my parents, got through that, started leaning back into my faith. That's when the praying in the woods and stuff and just
Yeah.
reconnecting with God, like, it became real to me because when when you grow up in that setting of Christian school and stuff, it's not like, it's almost like it's done for you,
Mhm.
and, again, they gave me a good foundation, but it wasn't
You
always
didn't have to seek
real
it
to
out.
me,
Like, yeah, yeah,
and then it became real to me, like, I truly felt the presence, I felt the peace
yeah,
that I'd never really felt before,
yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, this is what this feels like. Okay, cool."
yeah.
So that made it become real to me, and then I spent time developing not only myself, like I started eating more healthy and
Yep.
just like drinking water, being
Mhm.
healthy, exercising more,
Yeah.
taking care of myself
'Cause it
physically.
all goes
That
in the
definitely
same
helped.
realm. It's the same, you know what I mean? Like, it's the same. Like, I think people, if they get so separate, that
No,
it's not.
it's all together.
Yeah.
Health is health. And
Yes.
so there's the physical health. I started taking care of that. That made a huge difference.
Mhm.
Like huge difference in my energy levels, in my mindset. I started, reading more, not only just like reading the Bible, but just
Yeah.
reading, just being, I was just like trying to better myself, the
Yeah.
hashtag self care or whatever.
Right?
But,
All
connecting
day.
with other people and just like, and just that year off, and God knew I needed that. That's why I missed it by 1 point, like
Yeah.
not going. So that 1 year off, even though a lot of hard things happened towards the
Yeah.
end of it, like I really developed myself to be ready for the next trials of PT school, which is where now I met my wife. I
Okay.
met some of my really best friends,
Love
and then
that,
they became a support to me as well
which is
because we're
awesome.
going through the same struggles because we're
Yeah.
all going through the same program, which was nice. So that was like the group, right?
Okay. Got it.
Because that's who you're around like all
Yep.
week. It was almost like a full time job.
Yeah.
These are my coworkers almost.
Gotcha.
So they weren't all people of faith, but they still were sharing the same struggles and misery loves
Yes.
company or whatever. So it
Mhm.
was good to have people like, because, you can talk to your parents, you can talk to whoever, but they don't like, no one was going through that but
Right.
these people.
Yes.
And so it was easy to connect with them that way. And then it was just like, you just have these experiences together and it's
Yeah.
good to like complain with someone and like
For
have someone you can vent to that gets
yes.
it, and we all did that, and it like we got each other through that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, with bodybuilding, that's I have my couple girls that, like, I reach out, they don't even live here, and I'm like, "Yo, like, we gotta talk about this." Like,
I'm in a
I
calorie deficit and I'm struggling.
literally, like, right now, like, I need some food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, 3 scoops of Fight later. But seriously, and so but they get it, and I don't expect everyone to understand. I don't expect the regular person to that, like, eats whatever. Again, that's not on them. That's just not what they're choosing to do at this time,
Right.
right? So I totally get that. So with, with where you're at, I mean, with being in the borough and stuff like that, do you feel like you are able to, I mean, do you feel like even with social media and stuff like that, like, have you gotten any harsh feedback about your faith? Do you feel like God's protected you in that? Like, how do you
I'm
feel?
not one to shy away from conflict anyway,
Right.
so if someone were to say something like that, it's like, back off.
Right.
Like this is my social media. Or
Yes.
I even had the conversation with my client earlier. We were talking about God's path for me, and she's
Mhm.
like, you know, something about, I was like, sometimes like I feel like people who work for someone else may not be able to feel the confidence to share their faith
Oh,
because they
yeah.
fear backlash. They might get in trouble. They might offend
Yeah,
someone.
yeah.
Like here in my business, if I offend you, bye.
Yes. Well,
Here's
and
a refund. Get out. Like
right. Well, and
I don't need you here.
that's
So
another
that
thing
sounds
too.
rude, but
No, 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 but that's true. I mean, my whole thing was, like, especially when I went through my trauma and stuff like that, I had friends at the time that were very much like, "Hey, if anyone knows this about, like, you and, like, whatever," like, even though it was, like, happening to me, like, "If anyone knows this about you, like, I mean, you could lose your business." Like, they'd be like, "Well, would Danny D do that?" And I'm like, okay.
she
So,
might.
well, but you know what I'm saying though? But it was like,
Yeah.
well, Danielle, if she wants to drink after losing someone that was like someone that was very important to her and going through all this trauma and whatever, and she wants to drink and like do what she wants to do, like then let that happen. But because of my business, that was always thrown back in my face. And that was so hard because it was like I'm not only on this path to like understand why God put me through everything that happened, right?
Hmm.
In reflection, I understand. And again, it was the best way about how everything could have happened. You know what I mean? And I know that was him that did that. And I understand. I mean, I prayed. Like, and for anybody listening that is going through this right now, I have clients and people like that too who that are just they seek for a relationship. They want a relationship. They want all these things to happen or whatever. They try to force things to happen. I prayed back in like 2000 and what was it? I don't even know, 2016 or no, yeah, 16 for like someone, just anybody, just give me somebody, right? Because I was so lonely, so depressed. I dealt with depression for like really, really, really hard through that year. And literally, I mean, he allowed somebody to come in. Horrible situation. Okay,
Hmm.
fast forward, thinking I'm working myself, doing strongman, doing all stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
This person walks in, had immediately like a bad thought, but then I was like, no, just like forget about that. Like that's put it off to the side. Just move forward because again, it was like I was like praying, like bring this to me, bring this to me, like everything. And like if you pray for it hard enough, I believe like it can happen. And
That's you not walking through the door. That's you
it,
knocking the door down.
yes, and
And
like
eventually God's like, sure,
no, it
go
literally, he
ahead.
was like,
Walk
"You
through
really
there.
want
Yeah,
this? Like,
walk through
come
there.
on, come through." And so I did, and
There's a
that
nightmare on the other
oh,
side.
and it was, but again, it made me like as anyone says, like, it makes you stronger, but like it made me see myself in a whole new light in ways that I never would have got to see. So even though like when you talked about that getting to that lowest point,
Mhm.
I think we have a special unique opportunity because we now know where we gauge on everything. Like we know what that low feels like and when we're starting to get back to it. Or if you know what I mean, or if depression starts to seek in, it's almost like, okay, well, maybe what have I not been doing? Because we get so in this like routine of things where maybe we aren't reading our scripture, or we're not, reaching out to other people that are like-minded, or you know what I mean, or we're maybe associating with the negativity of the world too much, or whatever, right? And so it was so like it was one of those moments where I'm like, towards the end was like writing out Bible verses and like giving them to him and was like, I'm just going to shower you with love as much as I can, even though you continually keep doing all of this nonsense, you know?
Yeah.
And so, after all that happened, and then plus with my injury, I felt like a lot was taken away from me and I could have been angry at God, but I was also like, yeah, I mean, he gave me the ability to lift heavy amounts of weight and do incredible things and gave me the foresight to like be able to navigate all these things. So like I don't, even with Jake's passing, like I'm not angry with him for all this. Like I know that this was supposed to be my experience.
So yeah, and I've been I don't think I told you, but the earlier this month my granny passed, and then I
Mm.
wasn't friends with Jake, but
Okay, yeah.
Jake passed, and so I was friends with a lot of his friends. Like one of my really good friends is a narcotics officer, and he'd known Jake for 10
Okay.
years, and in he was very upset
Yeah.
about that. Not at God or anything, just it's
Right.
just his that was his buddy, and he's
Yeah.
gone. And so kind of been surrounded by death this past month. Not in a
Yeah.
bad way, it's just like what's been happening.
Yeah.
And it's just really made me realize, like, especially for Jake, because he was 1 year older than me almost to the day.
Yeah.
And it's like, this dude is huge. He was a Marine.
Yeah.
He was a SWAT team,
Mhm.
narcotics
He had a lot
officer,
of life in that short amount of
jujitsu,
time. Yep, strong man.
strongman.
Mhm.
This dude is one of the toughest dudes I've ever met,
Yeah.
right? And he still is fragile. Like he's
Oh,
still
yeah.
past.
Right.
Someone can be so like you that's what I'm saying. Like you can't rely on your own strength and your own protection.
Mm-mm.
This dude being a Marine, being a door breacher, like he probably looked death in the face so many
Oh,
times.
yeah.
And this is a tough dude, and he passed. So it's like we can't ever.
By a freak thing,
Yeah,
like just
right.
randomly, like
So it's like that has put in perspective. Okay, I look back at my granny who lived 80 plus years
yeah,
and the influence she had on so many people.
right,
And then I look at Jake, who lived his life in 31 years
yeah,
and had such a huge influence. And even after his death, like
right,
they preached salvation at the ceremony or
mhm,
the funeral. And my brother-in-law is the pastor's son. So we were
okay,
talking after, and they said over 25 people raised their hands that they had accepted Jesus that day. And it's like,
yes,
he just changed. That's just people who raised their hands. So
right,
he just changed at minimum 25 lives right then.
right,
Plus, now their families are going to be influenced that.
yep,
Plus, there's people that have been reaching out to the church because they're like, hey, we saw the funeral. That was
yep,
really cool. And they visited and do this
yeah,
stuff. So it's like, how many more people will that influence? So, anyway, all of that to say, that's why I've been a little more outspoken recently, even. Like, I've been pretty
yes,
outspoken, but it's like now I'm like, what influence am I going to have when
right,
I pass?
yeah,
And the fact that it's like, okay, I might live to 85 or
mhm,
however, like my granny, and have an influence on a lot of people over a long
right,
time. I might not make it to 31.
right,
So, what will people say about me at my funeral? Will they
yes,
get up and say I made a difference, or was I just
yeah.
a bum?
Right,
Like,
and that is something that's so special because when I think when we're all dealing with grief and loss at some point, we look at it of, "Okay, let's just, like," and I kinda had this moment where I'm like, "Okay, I need to go do, like, strongman again, I need to get into this, and I need to make Jake proud," and whatever, and then it was like, "Hold on, take a beat. No. He was in this for the long game. He adapted. He found jujitsu. He found other things to
mhm.
find because he kept getting injured with strongman, whatever, and he kept moving forward, and that was he influenced different spheres of different people for that
There
reason,
were so many
and
people there that he
yes,
had
and it was just crazy
influenced.
because he was kind of like you just never I would have never thought that, honestly, from, like, because he never was really showy or anything like that. He just was never judged and was such a great person, and I genuinely mean that, not after the fact, "Oh, he's a great person," like, that he really was, and I would say it how it was, and, he was there for me through a hard time. He never judged. He just and through that whole thing with my leg, with my relationship,
Yeah, he
all
was
of it,
just there.
and yeah, and
He's
that
just
is
kinda in the background.
right, and that was something that I kinda internalized of, "Okay, I'm gonna go to this expo, I'm gonna be intentional, I'm gonna have fun, I'm gonna talk to people, I'm gonna, not be so like, 'Okay, well, is the booth going go,' like, I'm gonna step away, go see people," like, and so that was what was so
Shake
cool
hands and
when
kiss babies
y
is what I call that.
well, yeah, and,
Yeah.
like but it was a cool moment because too, when even when you came up and then you're like, "Oh, like, we've, like, been around, but we haven't met," and so I was like, man, like, this is like but if I was so close-minded, like how if you watch those videos I put up of me and Jake where I'm doing the stone, I was so angry.
Mhm.
I was like, "I have to lift this stone up because that is my value of my worth and
Yeah.
everything." You know what I mean? Like, if I don't lift
If
this
I
stone
can't
up,
lift the stone,
I'm not gonna be a
yeah,
strong woman,
I'm
right?
disowned.
Right.
Dishonor.
But he never put that pressure on me. It was what came from within. And so that is where I'm leaning into like, okay, my purpose, what am I supposed to do? How can I help others to understand that like this stuff doesn't have to be that hard. Like we make it hard. Like life, yes, is hard, but when you just follow in your path and you lean into it, a lot of times I look at it, I'm like, "Man, this is fun." Like
Yeah,
this
it
is
is
just
fun.
like, yeah, like I run a business, I do this stuff and whatever, but like I'm just being me.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that.
Well, and a lot of people, we talked about people getting offended earlier, like, if you don't like my message or get offended by my message, there's one person that doesn't like my message, there's 10 more that do like it. So it's like,
Yes.
I'm
You
not doing my message for the one person that dislikes it.
correct.
I'm doing it for the people who like it, who I can help, who connect with that.
Yeah.
And that also makes it easier too, because it's like when you're really in tune with your message and
Mhm.
you know exactly what that is,
Yeah.
which for me, it's sharing my faith through my business, like
Y
that is my mission.
yes, and I love
So,
it.
and we talked about not being a missionary or preacher earlier. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, I didn't go into ministry,
No,
but I did.
but this is the way that
My
you're doing it,
business is my
and that's
ministry.
exactly how I feel like that too,
So,
helping people, like, in
right.
that
So
way.
then you connect with, but then when your mission and your message, you know exactly what you want. You know exactly what your message is.
Mhm.
People that relate to that find you,
Yep.
and then they connect with that versus like getting,
Right.
okay, well, yeah, could I get more clients if I didn't talk about God? Maybe.
Mhm.
Obviously, I don't know, but
Yeah.
is that people I want? Do I want those people, or do I want
Right.
people who, even if they don't agree with my message, or maybe
Mhm.
they're not a believer, they respect the message or they appreciate the message? Because
Yes.
I've even had people come in, like lose a family member, or they're dealing with
Mhm.
this injury or having a hard time or work is rough, whatever their issue is. And I'm like, hey, I'll pray for you. Like
I
and I
love
don't
that.
just say that to be like
No, no,
oh,
no.
I'll pray for you. Like
No,
I
for sure, you
genuinely
mean it, and
do.
you say it when you mean it.
Or when I come in and they're like, oh, I'm feeling much better. I'm like, great. I prayed this morning that you would have good news for me. And you
Yeah.
did. And sometimes they don't, but like,
No, for sure.
but
I
that, and there's some people that are like, that I know are not believers, but they're like, oh, I really appreciate that.
Exactly.
So,
Because
cause
again,
they
it's
know I'm thinking about
kindness,
them.
it's love, it's yes, 100%. I have a client, Sarah is her name, and she prays for me, I think every day. But she'll pray when I'll say, "Hey, my leg is really, coming up, or my bumps, or I'm having kind of like whatever something's going on." She will pray for that and like
Yeah.
put her hands on me like after session. And I love that. And that is a beautiful moment. So I guess the biggest takeaway that I hope that people, can take from this podcast specifically is again, you know, if you feel like you're in a lost spot, you know, instead of rushing to get to the next space, take a second, ground yourself, and figure out, like, is there something, missing or what it might be? Maybe surrounding yourself with new people or going to do something out of your comfort zone or that quote that just happened. Let's try to turn the negative into a positive. That's what I always say. And if we can do that, I really, I mean, I know that it's going to make a better quality of life for you.
I think failure is a beautiful part of the process too. Like
Yes.
my wife will say sometimes, she said this recently because I was like, I said something and she's like, you're so hard on yourself. And I'm like, no, but that was a failure.
Hmm.
Like that was a failure, what I did.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like I wasn't mad. I'm just
Right.
like, I was straight up recognizing and saying out
Yeah.
loud that was a failure, which to her sounded like negative self talk or whatever she thought. But to
Right.
me, it was like, I'm just recognizing that I failed.
Yes.
But what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to turn that into a success.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
And
failure
move
is just
forward.
part of what we do. Like,
Yes, it
if you
is not
don't
the end all
fail,
be
are you
all.
trying?
100%. I
And
love that.
that's the weightlifting or whatever, like
Yep.
not picking up a stone. It's like, okay, well, I failed it this week, so I'm going to train harder and hit it next week.
And that yes,
But
and I
it's
love
like, I
that.
think people think that recognizing failure means you're being negative to yourself. It's like, no, no,
No.
I'm just calling it out. Like that was a
Exactly.
failure.
Well, and even with Love Your Body days where I'm like, guys, I think they think that love your body means that you love it every day and you think that you're perfect and whatever. No, I have flaws. I know my flaws. Like again, I never have strived for perfection. I just want to be my best self and be like, and again, whatever that is. And so loving myself through the pain, through the injury, like even getting to work with you today, like that really helped me. So, with that, like I always love to end the podcast and say, what is something that you love about yourself today? It doesn't have to be, really arm or your leg or anything like that. Like, what is something that you love?
Oh, that's a tough question. I love a lot of things about myself, to be completely honest
That's
with you.
awesome.
Um, I didn't used to, but now I do.
Mhm,
I'd say my favorite thing that I enjoy about myself is my personality,
mhm.
not necessarily like the funny whatever dad jokes. I mean, like
Yeah.
I shaped like my personality is shaped perfectly for what I do.
Yep.
And so I love that because it allows me to connect with people. Like
Yeah.
I can feel they feel like it's real, it's genuine, it's
Yeah.
authentic,
It
but
is.
I feel like it is
Right.
to me. So I like how go with the flow I am. I like that
Yeah.
I can adapt to struggles and other things
Mhm.
without like freaking out. I'm
Yes.
very much just I don't know, and I don't know why I'm like that. I don't know if that's just a gift God gave me to be a business owner or
For
whatever,
sure.
but that's what I love. I mean, that's
Yeah.
such a weird thing, but
No,
like
no, it's not a
it's
weird thing.
I
I
love
love
how
that.
just chill and go with the flow and like,
Yes.
hey, it's all good. Like it's all gonna be good. And
Well,
it's funny we
good.
talked about that, but one last thing, I know
Yeah.
you're but my we were talking about my granny at her funeral and how
Mhm.
she always used to say like when we come to her with a problem or like relationship issue
Yeah.
or money or trying to buy a house or
Mhm.
stressful, she's just like, "It's all gonna work out." And, like,
Yes.
that's probably where I get it.
Right.
Like, it's all good. It's just it'll work itself out, and so that's kind of what I live like, but I like that about myself.
I really love that. That's
Great.
awesome. And
Thanks for
I
asking that. That was
of
a
course.
good thought-provoking question.
Well, good. I'm glad. That's kinda what I do. Yeah. You know? That's my gift. But, tell everybody where they can follow you at, because I know there's a lot of people in Murfreesboro that are just out here, bodybuilders, people lifting, stuff like that, CrossFit,
Yes.
and they need some help.
I mean, you don't
So
have to be from Murfreesboro, but if you
true,
are
true.
let's see, what you said, where can they follow me or
Mhm,
find me? So, my Instagram is at volunteer_PTP.
mhm.
What else? Like,
You're out of TriFit?
yeah, so I work
Yep.
out of TriFit Murfreesboro. which is a private personal training facility. So my clinic specializes in athletes and active adults.
Love it.
People like
Yep.
Dani D here.
Mhm.
So I work with bodybuilders, powerlifters, CrossFitters.
Okay.
Really any kind of fitness athlete is what I truly specialize in, but I
Yes.
work with any kind of person.
Okay.
But I work with runners, I work with ball sport athletes, so think football, basketball, and then I just hired a new PT. Shout out to you, Rachel.
Okay. Love that.
But I just hired Rachel. So Rachel also specializes in fitness athletes, but
Okay.
she will also be specializing specifically also in pelvic floor physical therapy.
Love it.
So pre and postpartum,
Yeah.
working with women's health. Also, men have pelvic floors.
Yep.
Surprise, right? So that's a thing
Everybody
too.
can
But
learn that today.
so
Love
she's
it.
going to be doing a little bit of both of that as well. So that's where we're at. We're in TriFit. We're at volunteer_PTP. And
Okay.
yeah, holler at us if you need us. We will
For sure.
make you feel so much better. We're the best in town.
I appreciate it. I need people everywhere I go because I'm all over the place.
You
So
know I got you.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on,
Thank you
Blake.
for
And
having me.
until next time.
Until next time.